So now you can move the camera, but we need a piece. The first piece is the command board, where you command it. So by moving the mouse, you can choose any of these pieces, but we'll use this piece over here because it's the best for what we're doing now. It has this nice pointy shape and it has just the right size on top, the right size of parachute. So then you can click on it. It appears here. Now you can move it like you moved in the Kerbal Space Center, kind of. With that now, scrolling the mouse, you go up and down, and then shift and scrolling will take you zoom and zoom out. Okay, now we need to think about returning first, because we are building it from the top to the bottom. So you can go to the last of these tabs, the categories of fuels, of ports, to utility. Now you can press on this parachute, and not like the first spot, this will move where your mouse goes. Now, if you press Alt and move it on the right position, it attaches there. You can also not press Alt, but I'm gonna tell you later why Alt is useful. Okay, now you can go. Now, once you have put your parachute, well, the parachute makes you return, but if you want to return, you first have to go. So, you can press on these tabs with these engines. Now you could use, there's a lot of motors to choose from, but I want a very simple rocket. So, I am gonna use this solid fuel booster. Now, these have a problem. Solid fuel motors don't have throttle, and once you ignite them, you can put them off, so they are pretty bad. But let's make a simple rocket. Then, if you try to put this here, this might happen while it puts it on the side. Now, if you ever have seen a rocket, you know that rockets don't look like this. So to help you, you can press Alt and it won't put it on the side, but only like this. Now once you have where you want it, you can click and it's there. And you don't have to press Alt anymore. Now this... Okay, so someone is raising his hand. Please tell what you want to know. Adele?
Adele, can you speak, please?
Once you have this rocket is capable of doing some things. However, this rocket, its staging is incorrect. Here, you see, this engine will deploy once the parachute will deploy, and we'll leave it like this, and I'm gonna press here launch. Now launch it, because I want to show you what happens if the staging is incorrect. Okay, now, poor Jebediah Kerman is gonna witness a probable death, because this is what happens if the staging is incorrect. So I'm gonna press T to activate SAS, and then space to make the first stage deploy. Also in this case, stage 0. So you can see that by having your parachute deploy with your engine, well, Jeb, strangely enough, survived, but this is not if you make your staging well, this will be a much nicer rocket. Now you could do it on the launch pad, but I forgot to put one thing which isn't important you put, but just to show that this is part of this live event. So here I've got these flags, and we have to change our staging. So here I'm gonna press plus and I'm gonna click on this. I'm gonna drag it here. Now I don't know what will happen to these flags because they're in an impossible position. But let's see. Because in Kerbal you can do a lot of impossible things in this VB, vehicle assembly building. However, most don't work on the launch pad. Because physics doesn't work in the VB. Kind of. Okay, now let's press T and the spacebar again, and let's see how much happier will be Jeb this time. We are much higher. I am seeing some drag. These aren't extra engines. This is drag. I remember when I started the game, I thought these were like extra engines, but they aren't. It's just drag. Okay, now we can press point and we can warp time to 4 times so that you don't have to wait this much. Now, when our speed will be very low, that means that the wrap elapses. So now we can press space again, and our parachute, we set to our parachute deploy, and the parachute has to decide when to deploy because you see it's too high now. But now it deployed. And you just should know that physics warp doesn't work, isn't like precisely physics warp, okay? That is just something you should. Oh no. I think I found a bug. This shouldn't be happening. Okay, it's loading. Oh no, oh no. It started again. Now, actually, I'm gonna do left click on this and I'm gonna change the altitude which this deploys. Like this. And this should help. Okay, I'll disable SAS. Okay, now we are back to how it should be. Now I'll warp again. Actually, instead of waiting, I want to show you another thing. You see, sometimes things don't go so well. So you could press here to hatch, or you could do here go either. But actually, let's do it like this. Then you can press here. Okay, and now you can see that Jebediah is out. Now we can press space and he will let go. Now don't worry, he won't die because if you left click on Jebediah and press deploy chute, but you have to do it quickly, if not Jebediah dies, then the chute deploys. Now the advantage of this is that you can pick better where to land, easier. So now I'm gonna make him land on the runway because let's say that he's a plane. Okay, I'm gonna activate the lights by pressing this here. Now you see he's a bit too fast to land. He's going a bit too fast, so that won't make him land. So I'm pressing S. so that he goes a bit further. Now, he is not dead. Now, if you press W, he's gonna go forward. S backwards, D right, and A left. So you have to be quick. So let's just use the FLT400 fuel tank instead of level 3. And then we are gonna get an aero spike. Okay, actually, no. We're gonna get a swivel engine. Then we're gonna change the staging. Okay. Because before we do this launch, there's a very important thing you have to know on Kerbal. Before you do anything like going to orbit or going to the moon. For this liquid fuel engines, you have to change the throttle. So you can do shift to throttle up, control to throttle down, or Z to maximum throttle and X to minimum throttle. So I'm going to press Z, T, and space. Now, I'm going to do control because this is, I want it to last more time. Because if you press A, this is gonna go like this. E. This will happen. And then S, it will go here. And W here. Now, if you rotate it by pressing E or Q, then the controls change. Now we have to come back. Okay, I will just do ESC and reverse flight fuel assembly. Now, it's time to go to the moon. However, because our time is a bit, you don't have enough time to do the race, so we are gonna do a quick mission. I could use the Saturn V, but I want a fast and easier rocket, so we're gonna get this command pod. Then we're gonna go on utility. We will take this parachute and we'll go here, put it here. Now, we may not have enough time to take the cables back home, but I hope we'll have enough time. So, under this, you will have to go here, this tab, and get this heat shield, 2.5 meters, and put it on the bottom. Now, we have to decouple this, so we're gonna put a coupling, a decoupler of TD25 decoupler, and you could put it like this or like this, so I'm gonna put it closer. Now, we need to land, so we need a fuel tank. I'm gonna use this fuel tank. I'm gonna put it there. Then a puddle engine. Now the staging is correct, but we need some landing gear, so I'm gonna put these landing struts. Now, you could use this variant, but it's taller, which makes it more difficult to land with it, because you can't put any landing gear, because these are the biggest landing gears. Now I'm gonna retract them by pressing here. I'm gonna take a decoupler. Now I'm gonna get this fuel tank, and I'm gonna put a skipper engine, which is this one. Then I'll add another decoupler, always the same size. Now, the staging is correct because it gives you staging automatically, and this staging that it gave me automatically is correct. Then I'm gonna put 2 of these fuel tanks. Then I'm gonna put some of these flags. I'm gonna make them white. I'm gonna cover this fuel tank. It's not necessary, but because they're lightweight, just to make it look better. Okay. Then we can go to engines and take a mainsail engine, which is this one. Now, we need some boosters because I would like to have more Delta V. So, you're gonna go to coupling and we're gonna choose this decoupler, and I have to take out these flags. And then I will put them here. Then I'm gonna take an oversized booster for this rocket. Okay. Then you can go here to aerodynamics and use, where was it? This protective rocket nose cone. Put it here. Then, because these are gonna wobble a lot, we're gonna go to structure and we're gonna use these struct connectors. I'm gonna place here and here, and then here. Okay. Now, then the staging should be these two boosters, then the engine and the decouplers, then this decoupler and this engine, and then this decoupler and this engine, then this decoupler and this parachute. Okay, this looks kind of like an SLS. Okay, let's continue. We don't have that much time, so I'm gonna go a bit faster than I should be going. Mostly if you have to do some tests before. Okay, now this stage will burn for 74 seconds. Now, if we want to go to orbit, we can go straight up, but we have to go a bit over here. So you have to press D. But now we can do T, Z, and space. This doesn't have such a high TWR. TWR means thrust to weight ratio, which means that we're not gonna go up this fast. But this means that we don't have this much drag, and I think I put too many flags. But I guess you can never have too many flags on a fuel tank, right? Okay, now I'm gonna stop pressing D, because this won't turn quickly, and I'm also gonna press point to make it go 3 times faster. It's good to not make it go 4 times faster, because something goes wrong sometimes when you do 4 times. Okay. Now I just have to. Okay, nothing. I'll keep on pressing every, I don't know how much time. D. Then I'm gonna press M to go to the map view, and our apoapsis, which is the highest point in the orbit, is higher than 70 kilometers, which means it's out of the atmosphere. So I'm gonna press X because we don't need to raise our apoapsis. However, our periapsis is, I'm gonna press here, is at minus 471 kilometers, which is not a good height, because that means we're gonna crash. And we want to go to the moon and not crash back into cabin. So, I'm gonna press here prograde. We are out of the atmosphere now, by the way. Okay, this takes a bit of time to turn. I'm gonna spin a bit. Okay, now Jebediah, Bill, and Bob Kerman are all happy to be going to the moon because it's the first time they're going on the moon, at least in this world of Kerbal. If your Kerbals aren't happy, don't worry. Okay, now I'm gonna press point, and we're gonna wait until this thing here, which means upper prograde, is the direction you're moving in, and we want like this, like it is now. Okay, now we have to go to orbit, so I'm gonna press Z, and I'm gonna start burning again. Now the reason why we have multiple stages is because this engine isn't so efficient in space as this engine. This has an ISP of 310, while this has an ISP of 320. That's actually not that much of a difference. But this engine is slightly more efficient. Plus, it has lower thrust for the small rocket because we don't need empty fuel tanks, so we're just throwing them away, putting more debris into space, which is always a good thing. I'm joking. Okay, now this is the Mun. I'm gonna do focus view. As you can see, it is very similar to the moon, and now we have to go here. So, and now I'm thinking that I haven't done a good thing. Okay. Because now it's gonna be difficult. Anyways, let's click somewhere in this line, which is your orbit, and then you can do add a maneuver. And I shouldn't have done focus beyond the minimum. Then I'm gonna press this and move it towards here until you see that this dotted line goes over the orbit of the moon. And I was lucky. I don't know, I'm lately lucky, and I'm putting a maneuver here, and it very quickly gets an encounter with the Mun. Okay, so now that we have an encounter, if you don't get an encounter, you can press here and move this orbit, this maneuver around until you get an encounter. Now, I am gonna point maneuver here. I'm gonna make SAS point maneuver. In other words, the cables. Now this is the first lander that I ever took, the Mun. Well, it's a replica. Now, I'm gonna do M again to go to the map view. Then here, if you're gonna press maneuver mode, it should be like this. Then you're gonna press this arrow and do next maneuver, and then you should press this double arrow and do warp to next maneuver. This will accelerate time for us and the cables, so then we have to wait until the time is, and also like this is kind of telling us when to execute the maneuver. Now as soon as it finishes, you have to press Z if you were already pointing maneuver on the maneuver. Okay, and we are gonna execute this maneuver. Unfortunately, you can't warp while accelerating. Now we have more fuel than you need to. This rocket has more fuel than you need to go to the Mun and back. But I thought, well, maybe I don't know, maybe we will meet an asteroid and we'll have to make everything all over again, and it's useful to have more fuel. Also, like this, because you're beginning, it's useful to have a better rocket. No fuel. Okay. Now, when this will reach to 0, at least when you will see that you really have a non-encounter, then you can eliminate this by pressing here, this menu, and this is where our orbit will go. Now, we have to land. And before we land, we have to go to orbit. So, you'll press this, periapsis, and you add maneuver, and then you're gonna press this and drag it until you don't see this symbol anymore, which means that you're gonna escape one's orbit. Okay, now I'm gonna continue a bit. I'm gonna try and make it circular. Okay, this is a good orbit. So I'm gonna press here and I'm gonna do warp here. In the meantime, you can see the moon from our rocket. Okay, then we can point maneuver. The reason why I'm warping here and not till the maneuver is so that I can point maneuver and then wait till maneuver. Because you don't have control while you're warping through time. Okay, we are there. You can press C. This is gonna be a short burn. This stage has practically just enough delta V to go to orbit. The orbit that I want to. So it just has 138 more delta V. Okay, now I want to land, so I'm gonna point retrograde. Yeah, this retrograde, and I'm gonna press Z because I like this spot. Okay, this has still 39 meters per second of delta V, but we're gonna use it landing. You need much more than 39 meters per second of delta V, but let's not throw this stage away with some fuel. Okay, then I'm gonna warp. Don't warp too much because then you'll crash. Okay, now you see this altitude which is rapidly dropping. I'm not warping now. That's fine. I'm gonna press here so that we can see our surface velocity, but I'm gonna put it back to orbit. And here I'm gonna press because the moon doesn't have an atmosphere. The thing that is more important for me is to know the altitude relative to the ground, not relative to sea level. Okay, now I'm gonna warp. Oh. Okay, we're still pretty far. Okay, we are 17 kilometers from the ground, so I'm gonna prepare to burn retrograde, and I'm just gonna empty this stage from the fuel. Okay, then I'm gonna decouple this stage. I'm just gonna make a quick burn to go a bit away from this stage. Okay. Also, the exhaust pushed it away, plus it moved us. Now I can warp a bit closer to the ground. Okay, now pressing G, I'm gonna deploy the landing legs. Now I'm gonna quickly press Z because if not, we're gonna crash. I might have warped too much. Yes, I think I have warped too much. Now, let's hope that this doesn't happen to you.